Hello and welcome to the Flow Show. Sarah DeFelice here, and we have,
Tim Glover here.
and today we are going to be talking about the energy age and new ways of being and reframing a couple of things. So join us for a really great conversation. We look forward to diving deep. I like that.
There we go. There's a bit of fanciness there.
That was very fancy. Thank you for that fancy intro, Tim Glover. So, what inspired our topic today? We always kind of think of these things just a few minutes before the show.
If you're asking me, it's about.
Yes. What is the show about today?
I was. I'm always in situations, it seems, where I'm actually helping other people make the big stretch and leap into places unknown, where in things that actually scare them a bit, because that's just the way the work I've been doing actually plays out. And today I got this insight. Hey, you know what? What if we reframe this whole COVID virus from being an information virus, which is biomedical in nature, and so the medical profession would actually have a cure for it? What if it's not information oriented, but it's energy oriented? And then I thought, well, that scares the living freaking crap out of me to talk about that on air in light of my history and having been on the planet for a few years, and then oriented more to information, because as a CA and CMA and CPA and freaking all that kind of stuff, that's in my head. But I really do believe that we're pivoting from information age to the energy age. Mm-hmm. And so COVID would be an energy oriented dis-ease or dissonance if we're looking at complex living systems. And so I know I've been talking about that with you, and it just came up, whatever, a half an hour ago, and I put it out there, and absolutely makes my heart kind of go pop, 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 because here it feels like the emperor's wearing no clothes. This is what you got.
Well, thank you for your authenticity, because, last week we talked about empathic civilization, which also feeds into the energy concept, that we are all energy. So
yeah,
if anybody's feeling this energy from Tim of like moving outside your comfort zone, then you would be correct. And I think it's exactly where we need to go. We need to, we talk about the hero's journey, and we get to this point where we do need to jump into the unknown and say, hey, I don't know everything, and what can I learn, and what ways can we explore new ways of being? And I really feel that our power lies in the meaning we give to things. And, as we talk about, we've been giving our authority to others to give us the meaning for what things may be. And it's not to judge how people give meaning to things, because it is a dive into the unknown to say, I can give the meaning. I'm the creator. These conversations need to be discussed, not only because I believe there's a whole pile of people who believe this also, so we're not alone in this thinking, but also I think there's a lot of people that are looking for other meanings as well.
Yeah, well, it's a fascinating, like, I've been on a fascinating journey with my wife Sharon, who you know, and who was diagnosed with ovarian cancer about 2 years ago, and she's in the second round of chemo right now. And we were really, and so she was in with the Emerge on Sunday night, and we were down there, and she spent the last 3 nights in the hospital. And so I believe, and she believes, this is the last of it, and she's actually coming out of this. But it does very much stretch your belief system. Mm-hmm. And as Grant is saying, it's your perspective and who you are. And so looking for alternative orientations, Sharon's always been understanding that there's two orientations. There's the energetic interpretation and the information. And her mom died from this particular cancer a long time ago. So she knew she wanted, if this would ever happen, she had to take the standard approach, and then she'd also take the alt approach. Mm-hmm. And the first round, she never actually framed this as a fight with cancer. She always framed it with a dance, which is more conducive with the notion of flow.
Mm-hmm.
And then and people sending me books and sending me all kinds of insight relative to cancer and what is it? It's a dis-ease. It's actually a healing crisis. So it's a natural, accommodating, and rather than suppress all the feedback, as the medical profession has opted to do, the alternative medicine is looking at dealing with whatever that is and whatever your interpretation of and what meaning you assign to it, and then working from that perspective.
Yes.
And so it is quite, I think, appropriate right this second, in having had how many sleepless nights over the last little while with Sharon being in the emergent ward at the hospital, and then thinking about the same. And she's of the similar mind. She says, yes, it's the bumpiness, mm-hmm. and the feedback is not what we would like, but nonetheless, if you don't pay attention to the feedback, it just keeps coming back. So mm-hmm. this is an opportunity to actually really dive into the fact that, from my perspective, the world is changing. It was more dense matter, which is information, and it's moving from dense matter to energy. Dr. Joe Dispenza has done a whole pile of research on this. Oh my God, I was listening to a video of him, was talking about, if you want to actually release the density in your body, do basically transcendental meditation with presence, all the stuff that I've learned from my mentor over the last 15 years. But it was the very first time I heard him talk about it in a way that I could actually, this is the stuff that we've been doing. Mm-hmm. But he had it really beautifully simplified. He said, in your lower chakras in particular, there's all this density. You need to actually displace that density with higher frequency energy. So rather than a convergent focus on that density, have a divergent focus. I go, that was beautifully stated. Mm-hmm. And so it's not just us out there, as you keep pointing out, and there's Dr. Joe Dispenza, there's Bruce Lipton, there's Greg Braden, and there's all kinds of other people who are coming online who are talking about this type of thing. And I believe this is the kinds of conversations that we need to have in every context. And most of my life has been focused on the business and then the personal context. And all the leaders that we've worked with, we help them shift their focus to this, and they got freaking outrageously amazing results. You go, well, time to kind of come out of the closet with that stuff.
Mm-hmm. It's not just a little bit, it's like all in at this point.
It's all in, exactly.
It's all in this understanding that, we talk about what is energy, and other people, it's light, right? We are congealed light, and yep. The densities that are presenting in our bodies in our physical form are feedback for us to be able to bring awareness to, shed light on, and literally transmute. That's the power that we have as human beings. We can yep. literally transmute. And we've talked about this journey of feeling safe on the planet, and to feel safe in our bodies, and to feel safe to be who we are. And that lies in our root chakra.
Yep.
And it's changing from this survival, right? This need to survive, and all yep. of the just how we've evolved. Some people refer to it as the reptilian or the amygdala hijack, which triggers the fear response.
Yep.
And many of us have, through traumas, we've all had different traumas. We get triggered by things unconsciously. And if we just, don't pay attention or numb them out, or we give the power away to a different meaning about what it's about, we lose the opportunity to pivot, to understand that we're anchoring these higher vibrations and understandings of that we are light. And what if we can exist on this planet with the understanding that we are safe? We are safe. We are very safe. And I wanted to bring up the beauty of Sharon's perspective in terms of not fighting it, because that's also a part of the old way.
And I'll just add,
war. Yes.
Well, I'll just add, because it's appropriate right there, is that she's approached. She had hypoglycemia, and she approached it this way, and she was able to actually transmute hypoglycemia, which apparently you're not supposed to be able to do. She was also able to do this with fibromyalgia. But still, every time she frames this, rather than a fight, she actually frames this as a dance. Typically with the people that she's networking with, they're very uncomfortable with that. They go, what are you talking about? Like, don't you want to just freaking kill this and pound it? And she goes, absolutely not. That's how I'm going to end up dead if I actually do that. So it's a profound, like there's nothing like a real life experience right in your face. It's literally a life or death opportunity. And it's scary as I'll get out for her as well. So it is, for me, it is what it is to be in this point in history. Like there is fear that comes out transmuted.
Yeah.
Like
I wanted to ask Grant, if you're still there, saying, I noticed that this opened a lot of existing issues. This was from something we might have said earlier, but I wanted to just clarify what you mean by that. And then I wanted to share. So my mentor is someone who has a beautiful system, and there's so many modalities that help people transmute the density in our bodies. This is the game we're all playing right now. We're all, especially this month, I feel we're getting deeper into where we're holding density and old stories in our bodies to transcend this understanding and really bring more light to our being. And so she talks about love. And I mean, love is all there is something that we've all heard. But what if we begin to really live it? And I'm going to read what she wrote here. The principle is about loving others and allowing ourselves to be loved, and loving ourselves so that we can love others. It asks us to value others and ourselves, to respect others and ourselves. And when we cannot see the value in others, it is because we cannot see our own value. When we value ourselves, we are able to see that value in others. Not only that, but we also set clear boundaries and stop being envious or jealous of others. When we believe we are enough, our world will reflect that to us. And where we fail to love, it's because there's a judgment in place. And in the spirit world, so speaking in the energy world, there is no choice. It's all love. That's the understanding.
Yeah.
It's all love. It's all light. But here on this planet, we decided to make love a choice. And we are here basically learning to love it versus fight it. Because as we continue to fight, that's really a judgment. And we're here all doing our own, our own journeys of where we are holding judgments. Why do we have these judgments of not feeling safe? It's not about that we were wrong to not feel safe, because there had been so many situations that happened in our life that made us feel that way. But we'll just continue looping around and around and around that mountain, as some of those spiritual texts talk about, until we understand, why we're here and who we really are as creators.
Yeah.
Grant answered. Issues of vulnerability, trust, dealing with trauma.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this is the beautiful thing about this COVID is like, it's forced us to go home, get grounded, be home. You're grounded. Go inward.
Go inward, not outward. You can't go outward.
Can't go outward. Go inward, and seek help, because we can't do this on our own. It's hard to know what we don't know. So there's so many modalities out there that really help with this.
Well, it's part of the reason when Sharon and I got together a long time ago. And we look to bring this orientation to business, because business learns from feedback. I had accounting, whole kinds of accounting designations. So the whole idea with accounting is you look at feedback, and then you try and get some sense of what happened, and how did this happen, and how can we actually move forward. So navigating with use of feedback becomes really important. And the piece that I was stunned to discover, it was only after a long time, but in the medical profession, all the medical profession is, if you got a pain, you hurt your elbow, it's your elbow's way of telling you, hey, bring some attention over here. But in the medical profession, they actually give you stuff to suppress that pain. So you all of a sudden you got some feedback from your body, and then you go numb again. So you're literally navigating blind. And the alt health people are saying that's causing problems on top of problems on top of problems on top of problems. And in the business world, most of the companies that we worked with a long time ago, they're shooting for whatever, to hit a 10 million, 100 million, a billion, whatever their marker is, and they just go and they get the tunnel vision and they just plow, fight, keep doing it, and don't look at the feedback. So they miss and they suppress the feedback, and they burn out, don't hit their mark, and then wonder, okay, why did that happen? He says, well, does anyone stop and do a little bit of reflection on why that's happening? Because maybe you shouldn't be fighting. Maybe you shouldn't be pushing. Maybe just step back and then go over here, and there's an open window that you never saw before.
and see what's happening. That's right.
So you're
It
out
is.
there. What's that sound? Everybody, look what's going
What's
down.
going
Different song.
down? Yeah, that's a good song too. But that's just it. Like our society, we haven't given value to stopping and stillness and reflection. Although that's changing, which is a beautiful, and
Yeah,
it's
it
what's
totally is
needed
changing.
to happen, because everything is a feedback. Everything, like we talk about, everything is a metaphor ultimately.
Yeah, feedback loops. I see Grant Lillard.
Yeah.
Feedback loops keep happening
Keep
until they're
happening until
dealt
they're
with.
dealt with. That's exactly it. And if we fight them and we say, this is also part of the transitioning of in the sacral chakra, we're moving from the traumas that we've collected as humanity, our ancestors, our personal traumas, and that they're stored in our sacral, our creative center. And in that space, we are victims. We're really victims to the traumas we've been through. And it's about forgiving and understanding that those traumas were our greatest teachers, which I know, is to some people's perspective and personality.
Yeah,
It's
bit of a stretch.
and it's a stretch, and I was also there, so that's why I feel confident saying that, because with fresh eyes, to be able to look back at my traumas, I do see how that's where I feel, the most powerful. And when we bring love to our trauma and compassion to our trauma, it transforms us.
Well, it's interesting. I'm with Grant's comment, and I was thinking of something I ran into. Oprah Winfrey said this after she got basically attacked by the cattle ranchers because she made some comment about meat, and they just took her to town. And it was just like, it was really quite dramatic. Her big takeaway, my interpretation of her big takeaway at that point in time was, life's funny, and specific to loops, is that it'll throw a little pebble your way, say, hey, you know what, pay attention. And if you say, I'm not going to pay attention, and it's a little bit bigger stone, and you don't pay attention, then it's a rock, and then you don't pay attention, then it's a brick that hits you in the head and you're down on your back. What the heck was that about? And if you're not paying attention, then the whole wall freaking falls down on you. You're kind of close to death. He says, at some point in time, you would hope that people would actually pay attention. Well, COVID, from my perspective, is very much following this path. We had SARS in 2002, and COVID is morphing. Like, apparently the virus itself is morphing continuously, which makes it difficult to get a vaccine. And I'm thinking, and the vaccine is through the lens of biomedical filter, as opposed to bioenergetic. If you actually treat it as energetic, there's no morphing. It's a low density virus. Mm-hmm. And if you happen to actually succumb to fear and you stay in those low density frequencies, it's going to actually make life a little bit more challenging. If you actually rise to the high frequencies, love, hugging, peace, kissing, all that stuff, then you don't have that happening as much.
Well, there's something out there called ascension symptoms or ascension reactions.
Yeah, yeah.
Which some spiritual teachers out there are saying they're very similar to the virus. So if we're so basically it's all the choice, like we said, it's a choice of fear or love. That's all we have. That's all we have. Fear or love. It's always this choice.
Yeah.
And to be able to reframe, and it's not to say it's all about our intuition and what we feel, but there's many people who have ascension symptoms. When we start to shed density, we literally are able to hold more light in our bodies, and our bodies react. They react in similar ways to what a common cold might be. Some people, I've had many clients tell me very interesting stories about what happens to their bodies. But if they can stay in love instead of fear, it really can move through you very quickly. And I remember having an Eastern astrology reading, maybe about a year or 2 years ago. And after it happened, my whole body started convulsing and shaking. I had the awareness to think, okay, I'm not losing it. My body's doing something. And I just laid on the couch and I let my body shake, for the time it needed. And I just breathed calmly, love. And, we are healers. We are powerful healers. And Louise Hay is a woman, she's passed away now, but she was a pioneer in this understanding and studied thousands of patients and related their physical symptoms to an emotional trauma or an emotional feedback mechanism that had just been ignored. And so then it manifests in the body. So to answer Grant's question here, are traumas a part of our path? I think that they have been a part of our path for evolution to bring us to this place. But I don't believe that once, you know, I believe that there's new ways we can learn. I believe we can learn from love instead of pain. And this is the part of the new understanding.
Yeah. I'll chime in for my part is that it's been my observation working within the business context and then the personal context, I guess, because business is personal. We're not scaling business, we're scaling consciousness. But we go through stages. The very first little pebbles start coming, we deny they're coming. Mm-hmm. And then finally, you know, they get into rocks and we go, well, I feel really betrayed because I've been doing everything I've been told to do. I've been doing all the right things that society says I should do. And I feel betrayed because that's not working. And if we don't wake up at that point in time, it actually comes back again and we move into something that we call identity crisis that precedes, so it'd be a trauma, like a significant trauma, identity crisis before an identity pivot. And you were just referencing, Sarah, about the whole shaking. Like sometimes when our body actually is releasing, because there's density being released, we shake. And I've had that experience, you know, a number of times. My wife's had that experience a number of times. And again, Sunday night, 4:00, helping my wife into the Emerge Center, and she is throwing up and she is shaking. And then we put her in a wheelchair, and the movement was at least a foot. Her whole body was shaking. And the staff there were all saying, yeah, this is normal. This is just the body's way of actually going accommodating, you know, new energy and stuff like this. What they're all telling us in an emergency ward. Mm-hmm. And I thought that would be probably helpful to be able to go and share those kinds of concepts with the rest of society. Like for us, we understood what it was, but most people think, oh my gosh, this is not good. Respond in fear rather than allow it to release. Right. And create more problems for themselves.
That's right. Fear creates stress in our body, and stress is the cause of all disease.
Yeah.
That's why, you know, people understand now the power of meditation and creating that stillness to just be aware, like, when are we in stress, and how can we create more space in our life to bring more love instead of stress? Because
you can get, as you know, you can get to a place in meditation, having practiced meditation for a long time. You can get to a place in meditation and drop into that place where there's literally no thoughts, there's no movement whatsoever. Mm-hmm. There's just serenity. Mm-hmm. And it helps identify, like, who am I? You know, am I the thoughts? Well, if in fact I can get into meditation and there's no thoughts, there's no experience, there's no anything. Obviously, I'm not the thoughts. I'm not the sensations. I'm not the feelings. I'm not the exchange of information. I am the consciousness experiencing that. Well, as soon as you actually start to shift your identity from the physical into, you know, either a complex living system or consciousness, whatever you choose to identify with, life starts to make a heck of a lot more sense, because the logic totally pivots, which is, you know, as we've been talking about for over a year now on the Flow Network. Flow Network 99. I'm told.
Right. Flow Network 99. Grant is saying creating positive, supportive relationships also helps.
Totally.
That's everything. And this is a part of the big pivot. Is the first relationship is the relationship that you have with yourself. So yes. Your ability to know thyself is everything in this new world. Yep. And we can only have deep, connective relationships, positive relationships, to the degree to which we have with ourselves. And a lot of people do identify with those thoughts. And if we really pay attention, I remember saying this many years ago, working as a fitness instructor, and just hearing clients, and then also witnessing within myself, like, sometimes we are the meanest to ourselves. And I used to say, like, listen to how you talk to yourself. Would you talk to your best friend in that way? No, you wouldn't.
We've had clients when we get them in, especially in challenging situations at the executive level, and you point out to them the way you're talking to yourself, and it's just when you're talking to me about what a dumb freaking da-da-da-da you are. The likelihood of you talking to yourself inside, if in fact the police could hear you talking that way, they'd throw you in jail. Mm-hmm. because they would actually, they would, this person is somebody who has actually crossed the line, and they're going crazy. And they're going crazy on themselves. They're beating themselves within an inch of their life, right? And it's like, okay, well, is that working for you? Like, there's nothing wrong with that. If that works for you, keep doing it.
Right.
But
well, and just like we say, everything is a metaphor. We're also, we talk about this idea of unity consciousness, and we are all one. We're all connected. I made a deeper dive video about that on my other network yesterday, on 5D TV network, if anyone wants to, watch that. But this understanding of, it's easily to intellectually understand, yes, we're all one. This is what we're moving towards, right? In this new way of being. But to actually embody that and really be able to look at every person and every situation in your life as you.
Totally.
That is, that's where we're going. And then how does that look? Like, how do we operate as a community and as humanity from that space? But everything is a reflection. So, being, people talk about being agitated, living with whoever they're living with in their quarantine, but to be able to look at them and see them as you or not as you. Are they showing you who you're not, or are they showing you who you are? Because though everything around us is just a reflection of what's going on inside of us. So again, what's the relationship we have to ourselves? What's the level of love we're able to have for ourselves, or trust for ourselves? And it starts with us.
Yeah. It's 100% subjective world, despite the fact in the education system and in our life and in business, where everything's defined out there, we have an experience of life which is 100% subjective. We have an inner world, and we have an interpretation of another person, and then we have an interpretation of the outer world, all of which are just our metaphors and mirrors for who we are. Mm-hmm. And that's like that. And then society and the powers that be over a long period of time built structures so it would help people not get confused by thinking that their world is actually very unique to them, but trying to educate them to actually follow along a line and stay in a box and keep moving in a direction, and don't keep swimming. Was it keep swimming?
Just keep swimming.
Just keep swimming. Yeah. When you find yourself, Winston Churchill has said, when you find yourself in hell, keep walking. That's great. Like
just keep swimming.
Yeah, just keep swimming. Just keep moving. Well, this is an illusion.
Well, that circles back to how we started the beginning of this show, which we're getting to our end in terms. Yeah. I was using that just keep swimming, the attitude of Dory from Finding Nemo.
Yeah.
In terms of the unknown, like we're really swimming into the unknown.
Yeah.
Just keep swimming for me is like that trust that there's always a solution. And because she had, you could say, the advantage of not keeping her memory for very long, she didn't allow her past stories to get in the way of her trust about the ability to just keep swimming forward. And she had a very positive attitude that she would be able to find whatever she needed, or come to a solution, or have the resources. And so I like to, when I'm going into the unknown, I like to channel that inner Dory and just keep swimming.
That's a beautiful metaphor, and it's so well done.
Yes.
It's wonderful.
Yes.
Yeah. We all signed up for this. This is the big pivot. And I do believe this is the first wave of the big pivot. Those of us who are actually waking up. There's going to be subsequent waves that are going to look, however they're going to look, until we have a critical mass that actually has pivoted to be able to go and help the shift in consciousness that, ancients have been talking about for thousands of years. This has been, and in these practices that are now becoming more mainstream, they've been in play for literally thousands and thousands of years. And the whole idea of karma, and the Buddhist orientation to karma, and how we actually, like all of that type of thing is actually now starting to be brought forward in the language of the logic of complex living systems. And science is starting to pull those things together. So this is a big pivot that is the paradox of there's a convergence at the same time as a divergence.
Mm-hmm.
So it's both at the same time, which, you know, that can just get the head swinging about a bit as well in terms of confusion. But hey, if you're not confused, you're not really paying attention.
Yeah, I mean, there's many layers to our identity of shedding, and
Yeah.
there's always that little bit of confusion as we allow ourselves to know ourselves deeper and deeper.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there's our 30 coming up in 3, 2, 1.
Thank you for joining us for this deep
That was
dive.
relatively easy. I was all kind of, you know, out of shape on this particular show, thinking, hey, I need to actually risk. And that was kind of effortless. So maybe what else is there that I'm afraid of that I could lean into? I am going to do that later on today.
lean into the fear, because that's where we just, you know, go. And then once we kind of understand, you know what, we're going to save this conversation for another show, because this could go down another deep rabbit hole where I was going to go. So more deep conversations on Flow Show.
More to come.
More to come. Join us Thursdays at 12:12. And we very much appreciate you chatting with us. Thank you, Grant. Thank you, Justin. Justin agrees. It sounds fun to dive into the fear and learn more about ourselves.
Absolutely, Justin. I like that attitude.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
So
go get them.
Thank you. We really appreciate this. Is really meant to be an engaging conversation where we chat with whoever's watching, because we are learning new ways of being together in interdependent relationships. And that's what this is all about. Oh, and we're getting a hug. Hugs right back to you.
Oh, yeah. There we go. Hugs.
Yes.
Virtual hugs.
Virtual hugs. Because we're still doing our whole physical distancing thing.
Yeah.
Just getting the outro loaded up here. Okay, well, let's give us another lovely outro.